Good afternoon, Excellencies and distinguished guests. Welcome to this COP30 side event entitled A Pathway for the Global Voluntary Carbon Market Aligned with the Paris Agreement, the GVCM, co-organized by the UN Climate Change Secretariat, the Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea, and the Global Green Growth Institute. My name is Philip Eyre, and I am the unit lead for the Markets and Non-Market Support Unit at the UN Climate Change Secretariat. It is my pleasure to serve as your MC and moderator for today. Today's event will focus on the introduction to the GVCM initiative, a 3-year partnership between the UN Climate Change Secretariat, the Government of the Republic of Korea, and the Government of the Republic of Korea to explore how voluntary carbon markets can advance towards higher integrity and stronger alignment with the Paris Agreement. To begin with, we'll have some opening remarks from His Excellency Yoon Chul-gul, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea. Although he did not join us today in person, he has kindly shared a video message to congratulate the launch of the GVCM initiative. Let us watch the video together now.
Distinguished guests, thank you all for being here today. It is truly meaningful to host this important event at COP30 in Belém, Brazil. The climate crisis stands at the critical challenge of our time. It demands urgent and united global action to protect our future. Around the world, many countries are working to reduce carbon emissions. The voluntary carbon market, or VCM, is one of the key tools to make this possible. But concerns remain regarding the credibility and the transparency of this market. That is why it is so important to create a new carbon market that everyone can trust. In response, Korea has joined hands with the UNFCCC and GGGI. Together, we are establishing the GVCM, the Global Voluntary Carbon Market. We plan to strengthen its credibility and transparency. We will do this by developing strict methodologies and MRB standards. And as an IT powerhouse, Korea will bring advanced technologies into the process. AI and blockchain will help us monitor carbon reductions and make credit trading more reliable. We hope that the GVCM will play a pivotal role in driving global carbon reductions. Distinguished guests, Korea alone cannot make the GVCM a success. We need the support from all stakeholders, government, international organizations, and private investors. I believe today's event can be a historic moment, a milestone on the path to building a trustworthy, effective, and global carbon market. Let us work together to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. We next invite Mr. Sang-hyuk Kim, the Executive Director of the Global Green Growth Institute, who will deliver his congratulatory remarks. Please join me.
Thank you, Philip. Good afternoon to every one of you. And I thank His Excellency, the Deputy Prime Minister of Korea, Mr. Gu Yun-chul, and I thank Senior Director Daniel Violet of UNFCCC. And I also like to express my deep gratitude to Dr. Alex Michailova, whom I just met today, for your great contribution to this work. And thank you all for joining us, my colleagues and friends. I am delighted indeed that GGGI is here today as a key partner in the global voluntary carbon market hosted by the Ministry of Finance and Economy of Korea and the UNFCCC Secretariat. This event today marks a genuine starting point, opening a new future for international carbon markets that is aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. And I'd like to take this opportunity to mention the APEC summit that was held in Korea 2 weeks ago. And all the global leaders affirmed their commitment to mutual cooperation on critical global agendas and issues like climate change. And in that regard, during APEC summit, GGGI held a special session on building higher ambition coalition on climate agreement by having CJK, China, Japan, Korea, or Korea, Japan, and China, and 10 ASEAN countries. And reflecting on the round table and going into today's session, I'd like to emphasize 3 critical elements for the success of GVCM. Number 1, we must ensure high integrity to align with Article 6. It is necessary to overcome the lack of trust in today's voluntary carbon market. Yes, it is all about trust with integrity and transparency. Number 2, we must strengthen multilateral cooperation to prevent market fragmentation and drive higher efficiency with consolidated action. Number 3, we need to actively adopt advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence. We need to develop IA-backed, smart and robust MRB system to ensure integrity and credibility with much accelerated way. The GVCM, the Global Voluntary Carbon Market we are launching today, is timely in that it embodies these 3 core elements I mentioned. Furthermore, we are building this with public, private, and even philanthropic partners, presenting a realistic solution for mobilizing climate finance. Specifically, I appreciate the proactive leadership of the UNFCCC and Korean Ministry of Economy and Finance for their extensive work in setting clear rules and developing methodologies by combining Article 6 experts. GGGI will contribute to this initiative with our experience in the carbon market and global presence. And I'm happy to tell you, yesterday GGGI joined a signing ceremony to go for mitigation outcome purchase agreement between Norway and Indonesia. It is potentially could be about 12 million CO2 reduction that will be one of the largest reduction coming from the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. And also, there's one more story I'd like to share with you. Through the Ministry of Economy and Finance support, Green Trust Fund, we are supporting member countries in building their emission trading scheme, frameworks, and piloting ITMOs. The strategic direction from our headquarters works in tandem with the on-the-ground implementation of GGGI offices, which are embedded in more than 40 countries around the world. The success of GVCM hinges on active participation and close cooperation among member states and partner countries. I am confident that the core partnership of Ministry of Economy and Finance of Korea, UNFCCC, and GGGI will bring united expertise and collectively deliver the practical on-the-ground support for our members and partners. I truly hope this session today becomes a forum for discussing exactly how we can do together and deliver the real things for our sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Executive Director Kim. To conclude our opening segment, I invite Mr. Daniele Violetti, Senior Director of the UN Climate Change Secretariat, to deliver his welcome remarks. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mr. Violetti to the floor.
Thanks, Philip. We will work on that. Colleagues, Excellencies, great pleasure to join you today for launching event of the Global Voluntary Carbon Market aligned with the Paris Agreement initiative, and we are co-organizing this with the Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea and GGI. So great to be here with all of you, and of course I want to refer both to the inspiring opening remarks from His Excellency the Deputy Prime Minister, highlighting the Korean government vision and commitment to advancing high-integrity carbon markets. Of course, it's a pity that he's not with us, but we are grateful for his work and the full Ministry of Economy and Finance in the trust in partnering with the UNFCCC Secretariat on this important initiative. And I would like to thank Director Kim for being here and convey our appreciation to the Deputy Prime Minister. Of course, great pleasure to meet again Executive Director of GGI and all the full colleagues from GGI for being here, but also for the close collaboration that we are always having, and not beyond this project as well. GVCM marks a significant milestone in our collective effort to enhance the environmental integrity and transparency of carbon markets worldwide. Under this three-year project, the Secretariat will work closely with the Korean government and GGI to promote carbon markets that are truly aligned with the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism in both spirit and practice. Through the GVCM, the Secretariat will provide capacity building and technical support to Korean government officials, the private sector, and civil society, as well as potential partner countries. The aim is to help all stakeholders better understand how high-integrity standards can be applied in practice, ensuring that carbon markets deliver real, verifiable, and lasting climate benefits. We are particularly encouraged that this initiative also looks beyond Korea's borders. By facilitating South-South cooperation and peer learning, this GVCM will help developing countries build the institutional capacity needed to participate effectively in Article 6. In doing so, it will also contribute to the broader global transition towards net zero, leaving no one behind. And again, equally grateful to GGI with the partnership and technical expertise and being instrumental in shaping this initiative. And with both partners, I am confident that the GVCM will serve as a model for international collaboration that combines policy innovation, capacity building, and practical implementation. So today events, we are here to mark the official launch of the journey, and you will hear in the next session more details on the roadmap and the preparation. And I really invite all of you to engage fully in this and share your insights and experiences. So I can just conclude by thanking once again the Ministry and GGI for the strong partnership with us, and all of you for coming here today to make this important step and a milestone in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel Lee. But before we move on to the main session, we would like to have a brief pause while we take a quick photo of the main participants. If Mr. Daniel Lee, if you can come up, as well as Executive Director Kim and Director Kim, please join us for the first photo. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. Unfortunately, our Senior Director will have to leave us to attend to other ongoing COP30 negotiations, but thank you, Daniel, for being with us today. We will now move, as we see, to our presentation stage, and we have a number of presentations for you today. I would like to kindly invite our first speaker, Mr. Do-ik Kim, Director of the Green Climate Policy Division of the Ministry of Environment and Finance of the Republic of Korea. As the lead of the GVCM initiative, the MOEF is supporting this three-year partnership through its financial contributions to the Secretariat. Director Kim, if you would like to come to the podium.
Okay, thanks. Nice to meet you. I'm Do-ik Kim, Director of Green Climate Policy Division at the Ministry of Economy and Finance. It's my pleasure to present the GVCM implementation plan today. Next, yes. My presentation consists of two parts. For the first part of the presentation, I will talk about the collaboration of establishing the GVCM after the MOU signing in May this year with UNFCCC and GGI. For the second part, I will present Korea's plan for the GVCM. Next, please. Next, please. And, first, let me outline our cooperation with UNFCCC. Key areas of cooperation include developing methodologies for issuing credible carbon credits. We will also work together to facilitate international credit trading. Both sides will provide capacity building support for developing countries as well. Moreover, we will explore ways to leverage private sector investment for the GVCM. Next, I would like to clearly highlight the scope of collaboration with the UNFCCC. By clarifying the boundaries, we hope to minimize any unnecessary misunderstandings. Our cooperation focuses strictly on activities aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Other mechanisms and markets fall outside the scope of UNFCCC support. We believe this clarity will help ensure transparency and credibility as we develop the GVCM. Next slide, please. Yeah. GGI is also signing MOUs and collaborating to establish the GVCM. GGI will support the review of methodologies and MRB programs. They will also manage mitigation project registration and issuance of carbon credits. In addition, they plan to implement pilot projects. Lastly, they will also strengthen the capacity building market participants and overseas project integrity and credibilities. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now I will present Korea's initiative on GVCM. The carbon credit trading volume is expected to grow, but has recently declined. So this indicates that despite its strong potential, there are limits to revitalizing the market due to a lack of credibility. Meanwhile, at COP29, an agreement was reached on the Article 6 rulebook, establishing the foundation for Article 6 aligned market. So the vision of the GVCM is to bridge the voluntary carbon market and Article 6. The GVCM, Global Voluntary Carbon Market, will be a new type of voluntary carbon market aligned with Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Specifically, we plan to work together with UNFCCC and GGI to build a pilot project pipeline. We will use satellite IoT sensors and blockchain technologies. We plan to form a plurilateral consultative group. Furthermore, utilize a joint operational foundation and joint trading platform. So GVCM will be a new bridge in the carbon market. Next is future plans. In 2026, we plan to establish issuance bodies, develop MRB standards and methodologies, designate the verification institutions, and establish a plurilateral framework. After 2027, we will implement pilot projects. We will launch full-scale projects reflecting the result of the pilot projects. This is the end of my presentation. I kindly ask for your continued interest and participation and support for the success of the GVCM. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kim. Next, we will hear from Mr. Sung-tae Kim, Director of the Department of Development Finance at GGI. He will present on the GVCM operational plan and key considerations. Director Kim.
Thank you, Philip. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sung-tae Kim from GGI. Now, building on the high-level vision from our ED Kim and Senior Director Violette, and the plan from MOEP, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, I will present the GVCM's operational plan and key considerations. Next. First, I would like to ask you ask you a question. Why are we talking about a new global carbon market? Well, as you can see on the slide, the existing carbon market faces 4 clear limitations. In short, they often operate with varying standards and siloed systems. This creates complexity for everyone and slows down our collective progress. The GVCM was designed to solve these exact challenges. It's a standardized global cooperative model, fully aligned with Article 6. And the bottom line is this: credits generated here can be converted into ITMOs to contribute directly to national NDC achievement. So let's look at how the GVCM is structured to deliver these outcomes. Next. So this is another slide for challenges. So we don't have enough time, so I will skip this slide. Let me briefly explain the GVCM operational mechanism. It's built to solve those challenges with 4 main components. First, a multi-country framework that allows participating countries to coordinate rules and procedures and to make ITMO transfer more efficient. For example, suppose there is a standardized mitigation project that 2 countries want to implement. Under the current Article 6.2 system, these 2 countries have to establish a bilateral agreement and cooperative framework. But if a different pair of countries wants to implement the similar project, they must go through the entire procedures again. So when multiple countries want to implement these projects, the total time required could become extremely longer. But under the GVCM, participating countries will set the rules and procedures collectively, so there is no need to establish bilateral agreements for each transaction. Second, a robust credit issuance system based on standards aligned with Article 6. And this is the core of ensuring integrity. And it will use AI and satellite data for real-time and transparent monitoring. Third, an advanced trading system using blockchain technology to ensure transparent transactions and enable a futures market for better liquidity. And fourth, a project support mechanism that provides end-to-end assistance for mitigation projects through trust fund, guarantees, equity, and concessional finance from MDBs. Next. So GGGI will play a central role in building and operating the GVCM as a designer and implementing partner. Our work will focus on 4 key areas: capacity and collaboration, pilot project selection support, operational scheme design, and methodology development support. In summary, GGGI will help countries prepare for participation, establish credible systems, and ensure that the market operates with transparency and integrity. Next. So let me move to the operational plan and key considerations. First, GGGI will launch a capacity building and readiness program starting in 2026. This program will assess each country's readiness, support early project preparation, and strengthen cooperation among participating countries. Second, GGGI, MOEP, and UNFCCC will jointly support the selection of pilot countries and projects. Our goal is to identify projects that are practical, measurable, and can demonstrate early success for the GVCM. Next. Third, GGGI will support the operational scheme design, including the establishment of the credit issuers entity, its structure, governance, and responsibilities, and will develop a plan to make it fully operational. Fourth, GGGI will lead methodology development support in line with Article 6 guidelines, so that credits under the GVCM can be converted into ITMOs. So together, these actions will help ensure that the GVCM is both credible and ready for real implementation. Next. So this slide compares the three types of markets. If you take away just one single slide from my presentation, let it be this one. Existing voluntary markets are fragmented and run by private entities, while ITMO transactions are limited to bilateral deals between governments. In contrast, the GVCM is a plurilateral platform involving member states, and it will cover all types of transactions, public to public, public to private, and private to private. It will also ensure true efficiency, scalability, and integrity within one integrated systems. In short, the GVCM aims to create a trusted global market that connects critical carbon trading systems. So starting next year, GGGI, MOEP, and UNFCCC will jointly begin full-scale work on the development of the GVCM. We invite you to join this partnership and help us build this high-integrity market together. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kim. And lastly, finally, we will hear from Parimal, Manager of the Markets and Non-Market Support and Stakeholder Interaction Subdivision of the UN Climate Change, and my boss. He will speak on the recent developments of the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism, or what we call the PACM, and their implications for the GVCM initiative. Parimal.
Thanks, Philip, and good afternoon, everyone. And at least you told my name properly, so as against Daniel VLOT. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. If we can go already to the next slide. I know that we have about only 18 minutes, so if you could go to the next slide. Okay. So basically, we wanted to talk about the recent developments and also the implications related to the GVCM project that we are doing, along with the support of the ministry from Korea, as well as in the initial period of support with the GGGI. And thanks for the director to clearly illustrating the initial cooperation that UNFCCC is engaging with. You know that within the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, it's a tool to implement the NDCs, allow for higher ambition, sustainable development, and poverty eradication. Oftentimes that we do not talk about the principles of the 6.1, and that is under which that all these 6.2, 6.4, and 6.8 functions. And the 6.4 is a centralized mechanism under the purview of the UNFCCC, where high-quality units are issued by a governance body. And I wanted to emphasize that this is the one and only multilateral crediting mechanism that is established by the Paris Agreement as Article 6.4. We do see that some of the standards would try to call plurilateral cooperative approaches, trying to have single cooperative approach IDs and call themselves as multilateral cooperative approaches, which is absolutely wrong. I'm sure that there are quite a number of colleagues around here will understand what I'm referring to. So according to Paris, the cooperation between amongst parties, the only thing that has a multilateral nature is what you are listening to, which is the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism. If you go to the next slide on what is the foundational principles of this mechanism, it shall aim to promote the mitigation of GHG emissions while fostering the sustainable development, incentivizing mitigation activities both by private and public sector, contribute to reduction in emission levels in the host country, which has a prescribed contribution towards adaptation by 3 means. That is one of the beauty of this mechanism, while being an mostly predominantly developed for mitigation activities. This is one mechanism that contributes directly to the adaptation by 3 means. And also we have through the intergovernmental process to have overall mitigation in global emissions to provide higher ambition. If you go to the next slide, this is why PACM as a cooperative approach has won. The parties have decided, the parties that are participating in Paris Agreement crediting mechanism has several benefits. And one of the benefit is that you are not bound by one particular cooperative approach partner. You are cooperating with the multilateral mechanism itself. So you have the opportunity of engaging with any party that is part of which is a party to the Paris Agreement in terms of your engagement. That also simplifies the relevant reporting and other requirements within the UNFCCC process when they are used as ITMOs. If we can go to the next slide as the next one. So the Article 6.4 Paris Agreement crediting mechanism basically creates 2 asset categories, one for the purposes of compliance grade and the other one is for voluntary purposes. But independent of how it is being used, the quality remains the same. The quality is the bedrock, and the centralized mechanism delivers the high quality units, whether it is used for as a mitigation contribution units for voluntary purposes, for results-based financing, or even in the future as part of the broader conversation that we are having about Baku Belém roadmap of $1.3 trillion. If they are authorized by a party, then it is an equivalent grade, which is called as an ITMO, which can be used for all compliance purposes. Oftentimes, we have been told, if you can go to the next slide, oftentimes we've been told that we have not yet functional, but we wanted to say that the mechanism is ready for business and it is been functioning. I just did not mention the forms, but you could see that there are multiple standards, procedures, tools have been adopted over this time by the supervisory body with the support of the Secretariat, and also the first methodological standard addressing flaring or use of landfill gas that is fully aligned with the requirements of the Paris Agreement has been adopted by the supervisory body in its last meeting. Are we talking in abstract? No. In order to participate in the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism, you could clearly see the interest. You have seen already 116 parties. When I say parties, I see a mix of people from both countries and also non-party stakeholders here. So when we say parties, we are referring to countries that are parties to the Paris Agreement. So we do have 116 countries who have designated their national authorities to engage with the PACM. And one of the participation requirements is for the countries to identify activities that they would be allowing to participate within the PACM, how the mechanism contributes to sustainable development, and how it aligns with this NDC. So that forms have been submitted by more than 36 parties, and we are working with an aim by middle of next year when we see some of you in our SB sessions in Bonn. I am sure to have this number to be 75. If you talk in terms of projects, we do have 1,500 plus eligible transition requests, of which we have 14 that have completed the transition requests, but we have already received 100 approvals by various countries, and we are also anticipating to have significant numbers coming in the next 45 days. Is it all about PACM mechanism, about having the older CDM projects transitioning and following the new rules, or it is also considering new activities developed after 2021? The second bullet on the right end of the top gives you an indication that more than 1,000 activities have submitted their notification from over 106 parties to be part of the Article 6.4, and we have about 10 DOEs currently accredited as an independent entities and another 10 in the process. The first PACM methodology is already adopted, and we are quite conservative in telling this number, but I'm sure that by end of the next year, we would have number of methodologies adopted under the PACM to be in double digits. Issuance, we do already have an existing interim registry for operating the PACM mechanism, and we will have a full-fledged mechanism registry available before the end of next year. And we are also expecting the first issuances to happen under the 6.4 from the transition projects that apply the Paris rules adopted by the SBM will be issuing in the first quarter 2026. If you go to the next slide, the PACM as a benchmark for international carbon markets. It is to help countries to go beyond their climate targets. The methodological requirements address issues related to avoiding locking in for the future, mitigation potential, and enabling future ambition. It requires all activities meet the same high standards, which I said. In addition to that, we also heard from our colleagues and partners about the capacity building that they have been undertaking within the implementation of Article 6. The Secretariat has also got an explicit mandate by parties to deliver capacity building to countries on issues related to institutional arrangements, baseline setting, reporting, tracking, and recording, and how participation in mechanism contributes to higher ambition. That exactly leeways to what director from the ministry specified in terms of the work that we are doing together with the ministry with respect to the initial parts, both with ministry as well as with the GGGI. If you go to the next slide, it is to help the foundational knowledge fully align to the mandates that we have been given in terms of helping countries to find the foundational knowledge and technical capacity on various carbon pricing instruments and high integrity carbon crediting standards under the PACM. You also listened from the earlier presentations that there will be a number of methodologies that will also be developed within this cooperation to be submitted under the PACM. Also to help countries in establishing and strengthening their institutional arrangements, fully aligned with providing the necessary support to fulfill the various reporting requirements and the review obligations. You might be seeing currently at the initial stages of the review reports in terms of gaps, and I'm sure that the more we experience, we will be doing better with this experience, and along with the UNFCCC and this partnership, we will be able to strengthen the institutional arrangements with different countries that are engaging in carbon markets under Article 6. It is also ensuring that the stakeholders understand what high integrity activities are and why high integrity activities are essential for ensuring the credibility of carbon markets. And I always have a famous acronym to say of for you to have a secure financial transactions, you use a SWIFT code. The mechanism also works with the SWIFT code, which is supplementarity, integrity, fungibility, and transparency. And this mechanism, the PACM, delivers all those four foundational principles in making sure all the activities that are undertaken within the Article 6 provides with those high integrity. Also to provide supporting capacity building under this project for MRV requirements under the PACM. And also to provide and support the development of a structured pipeline of high integrity projects that can be developed under the PACM or under the Article 6 in general. Thank you so much. Over to you, Philip.
Thank you, but Parimal, don't go too far. Okay, so thank you very much to all three presenters for your insightful presentation. We'll now move to the panel discussion, and we are running slightly over time, so we will have to sort of be very concise and surgical in the way in which we intervene. If Perimal, if you can please return back up to the screen. And Axel, and also is joining us with Mr. Axel Mikhailova, Senior Founding Partner of Perspectives Climate Group. My question is directed to Axel. You've long been a leading voice on environmental integrity in carbon markets, and you've been closely followed and contributed to discussions on the integrity of the Paris Agreement crediting mechanism. Would you share your views on what aspects of the PACM should government-led initiatives like the GVCM take into account, and your perspective on the integrity challenges that have emerged in the voluntary carbon market? Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I really salute this initiative. I think that currently we have a wild west of voluntary carbon market use in the context of Article 6.2. I see various private programs lobbying governments that the governments give a rubber stamp for these programs under Article 6.2. For example, Vera moves through African countries to argue that it should be the sole provider of 6.2 ITMOs. And we see it also from players in the forestry sector, for example, in the context of our trees, the recent transactions that we've seen in Guyana and Suriname. And that, of course, leads to the risk that Article 6 is contaminated by bad quality ITMOs, as all the scandals in the voluntary carbon market have shown that the voluntary carbon market cannot regulate itself. It is structurally unable to deliver good quality credits. And that's why I'm, of course, thrilled to see the government of a significant player in Article 6.2, South Korea, combining with the Secretariat, which is the guardian of the integrity of the PACM. I would think there is a strong wish to have a race to the top, that the PACM, and Perumal has nicely described how the PACM over the past 12, 15 months has really become the beacon of high integrity rules. And I know this is a very difficult fight. The fight is not over. We've seen, especially here in the 6.4 rooms, important governments like Indonesia arguing that this work should be dismantled. And this should not happen. We need to continue on that way. And I hope that the initiative is able to now, for example, work on methodologies and convince the VCM players that a good methodology for Article 6.2 needs to include downward adjustment, that it needs to be below business as usual, that it needs to take into account all levels of uncertainty. And that, of course, for example, in the context of removals, monitoring needs to be long-term. We cannot just, after 30 years, walk away and leave the liability to the host country. That can just not happen. I have a few recommendations for the initiative and hope that it's still possible to take those into account. I've noted a strong push towards artificial intelligence and blockchain. I have myself now started to look at this over almost a decade, and it remained a promise always on the horizon. And the only things that have worked so far in blockchain and AI have been pulling money out of the pockets of trustful individuals who were willing to pay, for example, $70,000 for a bad quality credit from an Indonesian Red Plus project. That is not the way how blockchain tokenization should work. And so far, I've not seen a single initiative which has been able to overcome this initial tainting of the new technologies. So my request would be very careful how to use the blockchain and artificial intelligence. And don't fall into the trap that these technologies miraculously will resolve the issues. They will not. They need to be controlled by humans. Then another aspect which is important and which have I not fully understood is the governance of the initiative. I understand you want to have a plurilateral committee of governments that govern the initiative. It would be important to understand how it is done, and how the issuance entity is sufficiently independent that is not deemed from the outset to be biased towards, for example, the interests of the government of Korea. That you really have this as a plurilateral initiative that is from the outset deemed neutral, not interested in credit volumes, and really wants to play the role as neutral broker and high quality provider. But I think this can be achieved, and if you manage to find your place in the, of course, quite populated space of initiatives, we have the A6IP, we have the ICVCM, I think this initiative can thrive, play an important role to get us from the Wild West to a really plurilateral system where we get the race to the top and prevent that the voluntary market pulls down the PECM, but that the PECM pulls up the voluntary market. Thank you.
Thank you, Axel, for your very insightful perspective. Perma, would you like to add any reflections or complementary thoughts on the points raised by Mr. Mikhailov?
Yeah, no, I think thanks, Axel, thanks, Axel, for your words. No, I think one of the things that, as you rightly said, I think the purpose of the mechanism, I would say that this is the most democracy way of saying, right? Like it is by the parties, for the parties, to the parties, is what has been established within this process to help countries to mobilize finance, implement mitigation activities, implement adaptation activities with mitigation co-benefits, implement activities that have economic diversification. And as you said that our key performance indicator is to see that if the intergovernmental process, I would say that if PACM was able to deliver a standard that is a compromise of 195 countries, for us that should be the rock bottom, the de minimis to start with in terms of the quality of the units. If you are able to do much better than that, most welcome. So for us, the KPI, 5 years later, when we come down to say for the Secretariat is not to say that how much successful we are to have high integrity PACM markets, but how integrity standards has influenced the market in order to make sure that everybody uses PACM as the starting de minimis. And I think that is what you are saying. And I hope that the market will realize that at some point in time. Carbon markets, I'm with the Secretariat only for the 10 years. And before that 12 years, I'm a trader, I'm a consultant, I have worked in multiple roles within the market. The moment there is a mistrust that comes into the market collapses. And if you want to retain that trust, it has to be well oiled and machined to align with what is intergovernmentally being agreed. And the biggest advantage that I see within this initiative that we are going to do with is to work on a very bottom-up approach in terms of working with interested countries in making sure that those are fully aligned with PACM. On the final outcome, you heard from Director, the Ministry might use those outcomes for different purposes, but what we wanted to make sure is that the foundational principles and the standards are fully aligned with what is being done under the PACM. And using this initiative, we are also helping countries to meet the various institutional requirements. I know that there are quite a number of partners that whom we are already working with some of the agencies that you have mentioned, but this is an additional source of support that we are getting in making sure that the countries establish the institutional requirements so that they will be able to make sure that their reporting requirements, the review obligations are made much more smoother, and the parties makes the right choices of what to sell, when to sell, and how to sell, in case if they wanted to engage in terms of trading or in terms of high quality outcomes where they could attract finance that could flow into their countries in terms of reducing their emissions. So we see as from UNFCCC, this is a great opportunity to work, as you rightly said, Axel, towards looking at South-South cooperation more closely and to see that how the circumstances and the specificities of the countries are taken into account while we ensure that the desired quality and the credibility is maintained.
Thank you both for your very insightful thoughts. Unfortunately, I see that we have totally exceeded our time, and we've been told that we have to finish up by 5 past. So this will formally conclude our today's event. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation to all the speakers and panelists and participants for joining us this afternoon. As this is an ongoing process, I know you may have had questions, but we will be presenting further updates on this one as we go, possibly both in June and obviously, of course, at the next COP as well, where you'll be able to engage with us. I wish you a pleasant continuation of your COP30 schedule, and thank you for attending.